8:30 a.m. on October 31, 1943, Technical Sergeant Arthur Bino crouched behind the twin .50 caliber machine guns in the top turret of a B-24 Liberator over H-Hyong. Scanning the sky as 29 Japanese Zero fighters ascended toward his formation through broken clouds at 12,000 feet. He was 32 years old, had flown 17 combat missions over Japanese-held territory, and already had 7 confirmed kills. The Japanese had launched 29 Mitsubishi S-6M0 fighters from Guam Airfield to intercept the morning raid. Bino's squadron had lost 11 gunners over the past 4 months. The pattern was predictable. Japanese pilots spotted the bright streaks of tracer fire arcing from American bombers, followed the glowing lines straight back to the gun positions, and most gunners never survived the first pass. Every B-24 gunner in the 14th Air Force loaded their ammunition belts the same way, 4 ball rounds, 1 tracer, repeated. The tracers were meant to help gunners adjust aim, to show exactly where bullets were going. Bino thought it was the stupidest idea he had ever heard. Growing up in Bisbee, Arizona, he had been captain of the football team at Bisbee High School in 1928. After graduation, he worked as an electrician in the copper mines, but his true passion was competitive shooting. He spent weekends at the rifle range, loaded his own ammunition, studied ballistics, and practiced until his hands cramped. In 1937, he placed 6th in the National Rifle Championship, and in 1940 he won the Arizona State Rifle Championship. He was president of the Bisbee Rifle and Pistol Club. When he volunteered for the Army in 1941 at age 30, much older than most recruits, the recruiting sergeant reviewed his shooting scores and sent him straight to aerial gunnery school at Las Vegas Army Airfield in Nevada. Bino graduated at the top of his class and was assigned to the 374th Bomb Squadron, 308th Bomb Group, deploying to China in early 1943. He became the top turret gunner on a B-24D Liberator nicknamed the Goon. When he first inspected his ammunition, he saw tracers loaded into every belt and immediately knew what would happen. Japanese pilots were sharp. They would follow the glowing streaks straight back to the gunner and kill him. That night, Bino sat in the armament tent with 500 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition spread across a wooden table. Carefully, he removed every tracer and replaced them with standard ball rounds, no phosphorus, no blow, no bright line pointing at his position. The other gunners thought he was insane. Tracers helped you see where you were shooting. How could he hit anything without them? Bino explained he had been shooting competitively for 15 years. He knew his gun, he knew the ballistics, and he trusted his training. When he flew his first combat mission with only ball ammunition, the lead Zero approached 3,000 feet below and closed in fast. Bino rotated his turret, checked his ammunition feed, and prepared. At 1,800 yards, the enemy fired but was too far. Bino waited until 1,000 yards, then squeezed the trigger. The twin .50s roared, 50 rounds per second, no tracers, no glowing line, just invisible death cutting through the air at 2,900 feet per second. The Zero's canopy shattered, it rolled left, trailing smoke. Bino immediately tracked the second Zero, fired a 3-second burst, and its engine exploded. 2 down in 40 seconds, and the Japanese had no clue where the fire was coming from. He rotated right, firing on another attacker and tore off its wing. 3 kills. Other gunners fired with tracers, drawing attention. 2 B-24s were hit. 16 American gunners died in the next 90 seconds. Bino's bullets arrived silently. Invisibly, he was death from nowhere. Another Zero dove for a belly attack. Bino fired straight down, killing it. In the 8-minute engagement, he fired 640 rounds, barrels glowing red, and destroyed 5 Zeros over the rice paddies and 2 more over the Gulf. Returning to Changkong Airfield 3 hours later, his squadron commander had counted 7 confirmed kills. Bino had achieved the highest single mission score of any bomber gunner in the 14th Air Force. Within a week, half the gunners in the 308th Bomb Group followed his lead, removing their tracers. Within 2 weeks, 3/4 had done so, and the tactic spread to other squadrons and bomb groups. Bino's skill, developed over 15 years of competitive shooting, allowed him to aim perfectly without glowing bullets. By mid-November, his confirmed kills rose to 12, approaching fighter pilot ace totals. On November 14, 1943, 2 weeks after H-Hyong, Bino climbed into his turret for a mission against Hong Kong Harbor. 7 confirmed kills behind him, he prepared to face even more Japanese Zeros than he had ever encountered. 14 B-24s from the 308th Bomb Group were scheduled to attack shipping in the harbor. Intelligence had estimated light opposition, perhaps a dozen Zeros from Kitiak Airfield, but they were wrong. 5:30 a.m., the Goon lifted off from Changkong, Captain Samuel Skousen maintaining formation as they climbed toward altitude. Bino test-fired his guns over southern China mountains, both .50s functioning perfectly. He had loaded fresh ammunition the night before, 1,000 rounds, 0 tracers. The 2-hour and 40-minute flight to Hong Kong was uneventful, but the climb to bombing altitude at 14,000 feet signaled the impending encounter. The
South China Sea stretched gray and empty below them. At 0810, the bombarders
spotted Hong Kong Island through broken clouds.
At 0812, the first Zeros appeared. Japanese commanders at Kodiak had been expecting the raid.
They had scrambled every available fighter.
34.
Mitsubishi S-6M Zeros climbed to meet the American bombers.
34, Bino counted them.
Through his gun sight,
more fighters than he had ammunition for, more fighters than his entire squadron could handle. This was going to be bad.
The Zeros attacked in coordinated pairs. They had learned from previous encounters with
American bombers.
They no longer made single passes.
They swarmed.
2 fighters would attack from the nose while 2 more came from the beam and 2 more from below.
Overlapping fields
of fire, overwhelming defensive positions. The lead Zero came in high and fast.
Bino tracked him and fired a 4SE second-on burst. The Zero's engine disintegrated. The fighter snapped inverted and fell. 1 down, 2 more. Zeros attacked from the right.
Bo rotated his turret and caught the leader with a concentrated burst to the
cockpit. The second Zero broke off. 2 down.
A Zero made a head-on pass at the
goon. Bino could not bring his top turret to bear on a target directly ahead.
He watched the nose gunners. Tracers streamed toward the fighter.
The Zero's guns flashed. 20mm rounds
punched through the goon's nose section.
The bombardier, First Lieutenant Malcolm Sanders, took a direct hit. He died instantly.
3 Zeros attacked from below.
Benko rotated his turret downward
and fired at the leader.
The burst hit the Zero's wing route. The wing folded, and the fighter tumbled away. 3 down.
The formation was breaking apart. B-24s scattered across 10 miles of sky.
Some turned back toward China.
Others pressed on toward the target.
Japanese fighters pursued them all. Bino fired constantly. Short controlled bursts.
4 seconds.
Traverse. Fire. Traverse. Fire. A Zero exploded. 4 down.
Another fell away,
trailing smoke. 5 down. The goons. Number 3 engine began losing oil pressure.
Black smoke streamed from the cowling.
Captain Skusin shut it down
and feathered the propeller.
The bomber slowed.
They were falling behind the formation. Falling behind meant dying.
Alone. Japanese fighters concentrated on stragglers. Benko knew what was coming.
He rotated his turret and waited.
6 Zeros peeled off from the main battle and dove toward the goon. Bino counted them, checked his ammunition counter. 400 rounds remaining. He would need every single one.
The 6 Zeros came in waves.
2 from above, 2 from the beam, 2 from below. Classic Japanese fighter tactics, overwhelming a single target from multiple angles. Benko took the high pair first. They dove out of the sun at 400 miles per hour.
He led the first Zero by 3 aircraft lengths and fired.
The burst caught the fighter's engine. Flames erupted from the cowling. The Zero rolled onto its back and fell away, burning. 6 down. The second Zero from above broke right. Bino tracked him through the turn and fired a 2C burst. The rounds walked across the Zero's fuselage. The canopy shattered. The fighter went into a flat spin. 7 down. The beam attack came from the left. 2 Zeros in tight formation. They opened fire at 1,200 yards. Their 20mm rounds tore through the goon's left wing. Hydraulic fluid sprayed across the aluminum skin. Benko rotated his turret
and engaged the leader. His first burst missed. He corrected and fired again. The Zero's wing exploded.
8 down.
The second Zero from the beam continued
his attack run. His guns flashed. Rounds punched through the goon's tail section. The rudder shredded. Captain Skusin fought to keep the bomber level. Bino
fired at the attacking Zero. A 3-second burst. The rounds hit the fighter's fuel tank. The Zero disintegrated in a ball
of orange fire. 9 down.
The 2 Zeros attacking from below pulled up hard.
1
positioned himself directly beneath the goon where Bino's top turret could not reach him. The other climbed for another
pass. Bino rotated his turret to track the climbing Zero. His ammunition counter read 140 rounds. He squeezed the trigger. Nothing happened. The guns had jammed.
He cleared the jam in 8 seconds, pulled the charging handles, recharged both weapons. The Zero was 500 yards out and closing.
Bino fired.
The burst
shredded the Zero's tail section. The fighter spun out of control. 10 aircraft damaged or destroyed in 12 minutes. But the Goon was dying. Number 3 engine dead. Number 4 engine overheating. Hydraulics failing. Rudder damaged. The bomber was losing altitude at 300 feet per minute. Captain Skuzin called the crew on the intercom.
They were 40 m from the Chinese coast.
He did not know if the bomber would make it. He ordered everyone to prepare to bail out. Binko looked down at the South China Sea. Japanese patrol boats moved between the islands. The water was cold. November. If they went down in the ocean, Japanese vessels would reach them within an hour. Capture meant torture. Execution. He had heard the stories. The Goon crossed the coastline at 8,000 feet, still losing altitude. Captain Skuzin aimed for
Quain Airfield 160 miles inland.
The number 4 engine began throwing sparks. At 6,000 feet, the number 4 engine caught fire.
Flames streamed past the wing.
The fire suppression system failed. Captain Skuzin gave the order, bail out now. The co-pilot, First Lieutenant Ralph Bowers, went first. He jumped from the nose hatch and his parachute deployed clean. The navigator, First Lieutenant Daniel Palmer, followed. Bingo climbed down from his turret. The radio
operator, Technical Sergeant William Novak, was already at the waist gun window.
3 more crew members were lined up. Bingo grabbed his parachute pack. The bomber was at 4,000 feet when he reached the hatch. Below him was occupied China. Japanese troops controlled every village, every road, every rice paddy.
Captain Skuzin shouted from the cockpit.
He was staying with the aircraft. He would try to land it at Kwa Lin. The engineer, Technical Sergeant Archie Flaherty, stayed with him. So did Novak. Bingo looked at the burning engine, looked at the altimeter. 3,800 feet. He made his decision. He jumped. His parachute deployed at 3,000 feet. He drifted down toward the hills of southern China and toward whatever was waiting for him on the ground. Bingo hit the ground in a bamboo grove 17 miles northeast of Hong Kong. He rolled
to absorb the impact, cut away his parachute harness, gathered the silk canopy, and stuffed it under a fallen
log. Japanese patrols would be searching for American airmen. A white parachute
visible from the air meant capture within hours.
He checked his survival kit, compass, water purification
tablets, silk escape map of southern China, $47 in Chinese currency, a small pistol with 1 magazine, 8 rounds. The 308th Bomb Group had briefed all air crews on evasion procedures. Move at night, avoid roads and villages. Head north toward Free China. Chinese guerrillas operated in the mountains. They would help down American airmen reach nationalist lines. Bino oriented his compass. North was up the ridge line. He began walking. He covered 3 miles before sunset. The terrain was steep, dense vegetation, no trails. He heard voices in the valley below. Japanese or Chinese, he could not tell. He kept climbing. At dusk, he found a position in thick underbrush and stopped to rest. He had not eaten since breakfast at Chang Kong 13 hours earlier. His survival kit contained no food. He drank water from a stream and settled in to wait for full darkness. He thought about the Goon, whether Captain Skuzin had made it to Kwa, whether the crew who bailed out had survived, whether anyone was searching for him. He did not know that 5 of the 7 crew members who bailed out were already safe. Co-pilot Bowers had landed near a Chinese village. The villagers hid him for 2 days. Then guerrillas escorted him to nationalist lines. Navigator Palmer made it out. So did Waist Gunner Staff Sergeant Casper Terriel. So did Tail Gunner Technical Sergeant Robert Kirk. So did Observer Captain James Edney. He did not know that Captain Skuzin had performed a miracle. Despite the dead engine and fire damage and shredded controls, Skuzin had wrestled the Goon to the runway at Kwa. The landing gear collapsed on touchdown. The bomber skidded 1,500 feet and stopped 50 yards from a revetment. Skuzin, Flay Hardy, and Novak walked away without injuries. The Goon would never fly combat again, but the crew had survived. He did not know that Bombardier Sanders was the only man who died in the aircraft, or that he and Sanders were the only 2 casualties from the mission. What Binko did know was that he was alone in occupied China.
with a pistol and 8 bullets. At midnight, he resumed walking. He followed the ridge line north.
The moon gave enough light to navigate. He moved slowly, carefully. Every sound made him
freeze. Every shadow could be a Japanese patrol. By dawn, he had covered another 7 miles.
He found a concealed position on a hillside and tried to sleep.
Exhaustion hit him hard. He had
been awake for 26 hours, flown a combat mission, bailed out of a crippled bomber, walked 10 m through enemy
territory.
He slept for 3 hours. Then voices woke him. Close, maybe 50 yards
down slope. He looked through the brush. 6 men in uniform moving up the trail. Japanese infantry.
They were searching the hillside methodically.
One of them carried a parachute, white silk, not his. Someone else from the crew. Bino pressed himself flat against the ground.
The patrol passed within 30 feet. They did not see him, but they were moving in the direction he needed to go, north, between him and Free China.
He waited 2 hours.
Then he tried to move around the patrol's position. He made it half a mile before he heard dogs barking.
Japanese troops used dogs to track down airmen.
The barking was getting closer.
Binko started running. The dogs found his scent. The barking became frantic.
Voices shouted behind him.
He ran harder. He covered 200 YD before the trail ended at a cliff 20 foot down to a river. No other way forward.
The dogs were 100 yards back and closing.
Bino looked at the water, looked at his pistol, made his choice. He jumped.
The river was shallow, 4 feet deep.
Bino hit the water hard. The current pulled him downstream. He surfaced and swam for the far bank.
The dogs reached the cliff edge above him. Their barking echoed off the rocks.
Japanese soldiers appeared at the cliff. They fired.
Rifle rounds slapped the water around him.
Bino dove under and kicked hard.
The current carried him around a bend.
He came up for air and kept swimming. He made it to the far bank and climbed out.
His clothes were soaked. His pistol was gone.
Lost in the river. He ran into the forest and kept moving.
The pursuit continued for 3 hours.
Japanese patrols
had spread across the valley.
They knew an American airman was in the area. They had found parachutes. They had tracking dogs.
They had radio communication between patrol units.
Bino had wet clothes and no weapon. He tried to circle north. Japanese troops blocked that route. He tried to move west. More troops.
The patrols were tightening a net around him.
Standard Japanese infantry tactics for hunting down enemy personnel. By mid-afternoon on November 15th, Bino was exhausted. He had not eaten in 32 hours.
He had walked and run nearly 20 miles through mountainous
terrain.
He had no water, no food, no weapon, and he was surrounded.
At 1,600
hours, a Japanese patrol found him hiding in a ravine 3 miles from where he
had landed.
He had no way to fight, no way to escape.
He surrendered. The
Japanese soldiers bound his hands and marched him to a forward command post. They searched him, found his dog tags.
Technical Sergeant Arthur J. Bino. Serial number 691-7171. 374th Bomb Squadron. 308 Bomb Group. Japanese intelligence officers knew about the 308th Bomb Group.
They knew about the November 14th raid on Hong Kong.
They knew American bombers had attacked the harbor. They wanted information. Targets, bases, squadron strength, future operations. Bino gave them his name, rank, and serial number. Nothing else. What happened to Arthur Bino after his capture is documented only in Japanese military records recovered after the war. He was classified as killed in action. His body was never recovered. He was 32 years old. Bombardier Malcolm Sanders, who died when
his aircraft was hit over Hong Kong, was the only other fatality from the Goon's final mission.
The 5 other crew members who bailed out all made it to safety.
Captain Skuzan's emergency landing at Kualin saved 3 lives,
including his own.
The Goon sat damaged at Kwa for 2 months.
The 308th Bomb Group stripped the bomber for parts.
The aircraft was eventually repaired enough to fly non-combat missions.
It served as a transport for the rest of the war.
In 1946, the Goon crashed into the Philippine Sea while flying supplies.
4 crew members died. The bomber that had survived Hong Kong finally went down, but in November 1943, as the Goon
limped back to Kwa and Arthur Bino disappeared into Japanese custody, nobody in the 14th Air Force knew the
final count from the Hong Kong mission.
Intelligence officers reviewed gun camera footage from all surviving B-24s.
They interviewed returning gunners.
They compiled combat reports. They counted confirmed kills.
Bino's top turret cameras had recorded the entire engagement. Intelligence officers watched the footage frame by frame. They counted each zero hit, each fighter destroyed.
They verified each kill against witness statements from other crew members who had seen the Japanese fighters go down. The final tally was 9 confirmed aerial victories for
Technical Sergeant Arthur Bino on November 14, 1943.
Combined with his 7 confirmed kills from the H Hyong raid on October 31, his total stood at 16.
16 confirmed kills. No other bomber gunner in the United States Army Air Forces had ever achieved that score. Fighter pilots, with 16 kills, received Distinguished Service Crosses. Some received Medals of Honor. Their names appeared in newspapers.
Their faces appeared in newsreels.
Arthur Bino had beaten every
fighter ace record for enlisted gunners in the Pacific, and he had done it without a single tracer round giving
away his position. The question was whether anyone would remember.
In January 1944, National Geographic published a feature story on the 308th
Bomb Group.
The article included a photograph of the Goon's crew standing in front of their bomber at Chang Kong
Airfield.
Back row, 4th from left, Technical Sergeant Arthur Bino.
The
caption identified him as missing in action. The article mentioned Bino's record, 16 confirmed kills, highest
scoring bomber gunner in the 14th Air Force.
It mentioned his innovation, removing tracer rounds from his
ammunition, creating invisible fire that Japanese pilots could not track. By the time the magazine reached American newsstands, Bino's modification had spread through the entire 14th Air Force, then to the 10th Air Force in India, then to the 20th Air Force flying B-29 missions. Against Japan, thousands of bomber gunners removed their tracers. Loss rates among aerial gunners decreased by 18% in the first quarter of 1944. Bino's squadron commander submitted a recommendation for the Medal of Honor.
The recommendation cited 16 confirmed aerial victories, combat action under fire, innovation that saved American lives, leadership that influenced tactics across multiple air forces.
The recommendation moved up through channels. 14th Air Force Headquarters approved it. China-Burma-India Theater Headquarters approved it. It reached the War Department in Washington in March 1944. The War Department denied the Medal of Honor.
Their reasoning was documented in the official response.
Aerial gunners, regardless of kill count, did not qualify for the nation's highest award under existing criteria. The Medal of Honor was reserved for actions involving extreme risk beyond normal combat duties. Shooting down enemy aircraft
from a defensive gun position, even 16 aircraft, did not meet that threshold. Fighter pilots with 16 kills received Distinguished Service Crosses.
Some received Medals of Honor. The difference was that fighter pilots were officers, gunners were enlisted men. The War Department never stated this officially, but the pattern was clear in the awards records. Bo received the Silver Stereously. The citation praised his exceptional aerial gunnery skill and his innovative removal of tracer ammunition. He received the Legion of Merit for his contribution to bomber defensive tactics. He received the Purple Heart for being killed in action. His wife received the medals at a ceremony in Bisbee, Arizona in June 1944.
Their 12-year-old daughter stood beside her. Local newspapers covered the event.
Then the story faded. After the war, the Air Force compiled statistics on aerial gunner effectiveness.
Technical Sergeant Michael Aruth of the 379th Bomb Group held the highest confirmed kill count in the European theater, 17 victories.
Aruth survived the war.
Arthur Bino held the highest confirmed kill count among gunners killed in action, 16 victories, second highest overall in the entire United States Army Air Forces. His name appears on the tablets of the missing at Manila American Cemetery in the Philippines. His body was never recovered from China. The Japanese maintained poor records of prisoners executed in forward areas. Bino's fate was officially recorded as killed in action on November 15, 1943. No additional details were provided. Bisbee, Arizona, erected a memorial after the war, a cenotaph on Highway 90 between the Old Town and New Town. Arthur Bino's name was engraved in the stone. Hometown hero, killed defending China from Japanese invasion. In 1948, the newly independent Republic of China established the monument to the aviation martyrs in the War of Resistance against Japan in Nanjing. Over 2,000 American airmen had died defending China between 1941 and 1945. Arthur Bino's name was among them. Yet in America, Bino faded from memory. Fighter aces became famous. Their names filled history books: Richard Bond, Tommy McGuire, Gregory Boynton, all household names, all officers, all pilots. Bomber gunners were forgotten, even those who had transformed aerial warfare, even those who had saved hundreds of lives with a simple innovation, even those who held records that would never be surpassed. Arthur Bino's daughter never married. She died young. The family line ended. The competitive shooting trophies from the 1930s vanished. The Arizona State Rifle Championship medal was lost. The photographs from Changkong Airfield survived only in military archives. By 2025, most Americans had never heard of Arthur Bino. Most military historians focused on fighter pilots and bomber commanders. Enlisted gunners received only footnotes, but the innovation endured. Modern military aircraft still avoid using tracer ammunition in situations where exposing gun positions creates a tactical disadvantage. The principle Bino demonstrated in 1943 remains valid. Invisible fire is more effective than fire that advertises its origin. One man's refusal to follow standard procedure. One man's trust in his own training. One man's seemingly foolish ammo trick. 16 confirmed kills and a legacy that outlived his forgotten name. The final photograph of Arthur Bino shows him standing beside the goon at Changkong Airfield in late October 1943. 2 weeks before Hong Kong. He is 32 years old. His arms are crossed. His expression is calm. He looks exactly as he was, a man who mastered his craft better than anyone else in the sky. The photograph was taken for National Geographic. The magazine intended to document American bomber crews in China, seeking heroic images, men standing beside their aircraft, men who were winning the war in the Pacific. Bino was not seeking heroism, he was seeking survival. And he understood something most gunners never learned: survival in aerial combat was not about courage. It was about mathematics, ballistics, probability, and eliminating variables that could get you killed. Tracer rounds were one such variable. They revealed enemy fighters exactly where you were, turning defensive gunnery into a beacon that said, "Come kill me." Bino eliminated that variable. The rest relied on training. 15 years of competitive shooting, thousands of hours at rifle ranges, loading his own ammunition, understanding trajectory, wind, lead time, bullet drop, all of it translated directly to aerial gunnery. While other gunners depended on glowing tracers to show where their rounds traveled, Bino already knew. That knowledge kept him alive through 17 missions. It earned him 16 confirmed kills. It transformed how the entire United States Army Air Forces thought about defensive gunnery, and it died with him in occupied China at age 32. The 308th Bomb Group continued missions for another 20 months after Bino disappeared. They bombed Japanese shipping, railroads, and supply depots. Gunners continued removing their tracers. Loss rates remained lower than before Halloween 1943. Few questioned why they were removing tracers. The adjustment became standard procedure. New gunners arriving from the States were instructed to strip tracers from their belts before their first mission. It was simply how things were done. The origin of the practice faded into squadron lore. In 1997, a military historian researching bomber defensive tactics discovered Bino's combat reports in the National Archives. The historian published a paper on aerial gunnery innovations. Bino's name appeared in academic journals. Military history websites began covering the story. A handful of researchers documented his record. In 2006, the Air Force released a retrospective on enlisted aerial gunners. Bino was featured: 16 confirmed kills, innovative tactics, killed in action November 15, 1943. His cenotaph still stands on Highway 90 in Bisbee. Travelers occasionally stop to read the inscription. Most do not recognize the name. A few photograph it. Fewer understand what he accomplished. If this story moved you the way it moved us, do a favor, hit that like button. Each like tells YouTube to show this story to more people. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We are rescuing forgotten stories from dusty archives every day, stories of gunners who saved lives through innovation.
Real people, real heroism. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you are watching from. Are you in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, or Australia? Our community spans the globe. You are not just a viewer, you are helping keep these memories alive. Share your location. Tell us if someone in your family served. Just let us know you are here. Thank you for watching and for helping ensure Arthur Bino does not disappear into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you are helping make that happen.